I want to tell you about an old urban legend from the town I grew up in. Maybe it's more fair to say I need to tell it. Fact of the matter is, no one has even talked about it in half a decade, if I'm being honest, but a friend reminded me of it the other day. It was called the Piss Screamer. That's okay, you can laugh. The name does sound ridiculous, but it was a name given by a group of friends while we were in middle school. One of our friends who sat at the old lunch table, Marcus, was the one who told us about it. He was a strange kid, one of the types you let hang around your group, partially out of pity, partially because he was fun to laugh at, not with. He wore the same red hoodie every single day. Never washed it, never changed it. The kid even wore a hole right through the front pocket. Actually, now that I'm getting this all down on paper, he called it something different first when he told us about this thing. It was from some dredge that he pulled off the internet full of cliches. You know the kind. You go to the website at a certain time, type in the secret phrase, you're met with some scary monster. Apparently he found it off some old GeoCities site from a link he read off, some old creepypasta wiki. I can't remember the original name he called it, but the name Piss Screamer was what we called it after that morning. Not long after telling us the story, Marcus stopped coming to school, and word got around from one of the other kids whose father was a cop that Marcus' mother had filed a missing person report. In that statement, she had apparently said she was woken up by the sound of her son screaming bloody murder in the middle of the night in the bathroom. When she ran in to see if he was alright, she only found the window open, the blind smashed half to hell, hanging off the top of the window instead of her boy. Now, us being stupid sixth graders, it's an understatement to say we didn't appreciate the gravity of the situation. It was strange looking at the missing spot at our lunch table for the first week or so, but with time the initial shock of it all sort of dissipates. No body was ever found, so Marcus was only declared missing, not dead. And I do believe us thinking he was still out there, removed us from how serious it all was. The whole Piss Screamer thing started when one of the kids at the table mentioned something about Marcus' empty chair, actually. Someone responded that the Piss Screamer took him and it took off from there. The Piss Screamer became the ethereal boogeyman that was responsible for all our mishaps, problems, and anything else from there. Who took the pencil out of your bag? The Piss Screamer did it. When you found your locker open and you swore you closed it, it was the Piss Screamer's fault. Even outside of school, when one of the cul-de-sac kids' parents got divorced, we joked about it was the Piss Screamer's fault for sleeping with the mother. Looking back on how we treated the situation, we were such shitty friends. Piss Screamer hung around for about the amount of time you would expect it to among a group of young kids. We even turned it into an urban legend to scare the younger kids with when we hit 8th grade and were big fish in our small pond. The fact it was based around a real student that had really went to the same school the 6th graders were at, and in so recent memory, when we told it to them, added a sprinkle of authenticity to it. Because Marcus' name was also taboo to bring up around teachers, it even added an element of the forbidden. Something that made the little kids want to try it even more to prove to the other kids that they weren't a chicken. The quote-unquote summoning ritual was simple. You went into the bathroom here at the school and had to look into the mirror. We even had a special mirror picked out that Marcus had used the most. While you faced the mirror, you had to close your eyes and ask it, "Who took you, Marcus? Who took you that night?" Next, you had to open your eyes and write the name Piss Screamer on the mirror with the water from the sink and go into one of the stalls, leaving the door open behind you. While you were in there, you faced away from the mirrors. Anything could be standing behind you, right? While you weren't looking. And if in the mirror there was the figure of the piss screamer, whatever he looked like, it depended on which one of us told you the story, that means he decided to mark you next. You were cursed to be the next one taken. I mean, for us, it was all in good fun. And the 6th graders seemed to enjoy scaring the crap out of each other. But it all had to stop after some of the other 8th graders took it too far, and the teachers put a stop to it for good. It was right at the end of the year. We would be moving into the big world of high school, more or less. It ruined all the events the faculty had planned for us in celebrating our moving up in the world. That year, among the new 6th graders, there was this girl, real young, named McKenna. She was a real small, sickly little thing. Always carried around an inhaler with her, and the teachers had to keep some of her medication in their desk because she was too young to carry it around herself. School's rules, I guess. But she was rarely, if ever, actually in the class because of a whole list of health issues. And she never really had a chance to make friends because of that. We wondered why her parents had even bothered putting her in public school instead of just homeschooling her. I mean, now that I'm older, I have a little more imagination. It was probably in their effort to maybe help her make friends. Well, a group of 8th grade boys gave her the opportunity to earn their friendship, and having her do the whole piss screamer thing. You would be amazed at the cruelty young kids are capable of if they think that they could get away with something, you know? The day was specifically chosen by them too, field day. While all the teachers and students were outside having fun, no one would be around to bust them summoning the fucking piss screamer. While it was a day one we all look forward to every year, we didn't have much of a field to speak of, just a small lot off the side of the main building just to, run around in as spring was turning the corner into summer. Half of it was even used as a parking lot. Well, I saw it, my friends saw it. Everybody, including the teachers, turned their heads as the ambulance came flying into our school zone. Not a minute later, wheeling out the sad shape of McKenna on a stretcher right out the front door and into the back of that van. Those kids, those evil, evil kids, in just wanting a single, solitary friend to speak of, McKenna had done everything they instructed her to do. The phrase, the writing, she even went into the stall and put her hands over her eyes. Well, while she was in there, one of the boys smashed the mirror behind her. Marcus' mirror. The same one kids had done the stupid ritual hundreds of times. The same one janitors had to keep cleaning the words piss screamer off. Just the same. She collapsed the moment they did it. Couldn't get to her inhaler in time. The boys ran off, afraid of getting caught. They didn't understand how serious what it was they did. The only reason the ambulance came in the first place was because McKenna's parents had bought her one of those necklaces that contact 911 just in case something like that had ever happened. It didn't matter though, she died in the bathroom before they even had her on the stretcher. Once the other kids had learned what it was she was doing, when she died, it made the piss screamer real for them. Everyone was too scared to do it. No one even wanted to use the bathroom anymore, even if the janitors had taken the mirror's empty frame off the wall. As we got older, most of the original lunch table group drifted apart through high school. The piss screamer meme slowly faded away. I guess with what happened to McKenna, we never actually forgot about it altogether. We definitely didn't remember him though, Marcus. By the end of our time in high school, the original group was dissolved. It was gone. Sure, I had one of my friends from back then still added on Telegram, but I hadn't heard from him in a long time. That's just the natural way things go. That's not why I'm writing all this down for you to read, though. Because it didn't end there. I mentioned before that one friend did end up reaching out to me about a month ago. He asked me if I had heard from any of the other guys at the lunch table, and I responded with the truth, that being I hadn't heard from any of them since high school, including him. He told me that the only other friend he had kept in contact with from the old lunch table, besides me, had reached out to him not long ago about the piss screamer. He told me that there was finally closure on what happened to Marcus. He said recently he couldn't stop thinking about how tragic it all was and how we needed to remember him. And as he recounted the conversation, I thought it was weird. I always remembered we were pretty ambivalent to the whole thing, as mean as that sound. He followed up with a link and some instructions. It was a link to some site called documentingreality.com. It's some sort of true crime forum where users post details about various real-life crimes, usually accompanied by a few gruesome pics to complete the whole thing, right? When I first clicked on it, it led me to a 404, dead link. He told me that I had to put it into the internet's Wayback Machine. And I did. There was only one entry, dated in 2014. The forum only had one poster, and the thread was titled, "Rural Missing Boy's Body Found." The details listed that a 12-year-old boy who was missing was found only 5 miles away from his home by the side of a creek in a small patch of woods. It was Marcus. His genitals and skin from his face were removed. The police suspected the murder was tied to some sort of occult act. Going through the boy's internet search history during the investigation revealed that one of the last pages visited was Omegle. I remember that the site was popular when we were still in school, and it still is. It's a random chat website that allowed you to connect with strangers anywhere in America, and it even included a filter feature which let you connect to people who shared common interests. Filter words can be as broad or specific as you want. As I mulled over the poster's thread, my friend sent me another message detailing about how the police had tied a phrase found at the scene of the crime to a registered sex offender that lived near our school. Our playground was facing his fucking backyard. The guy's name was Michael Laramie. He'd been in and out of the local jail for all the things you could imagine a sex offender would do. One of the officers at the scene actually had heard Laramie say it a few times when they were booking him. It sounded close, to some sort of name. They found him at a desk in his house with his wrist slashed at his computer that same night. They were quick in trying to sweep the whole thing under the rug as fast as possible. With a community as small as ours, not only would it devastate every parent within the town itself, but the gross negligence that allowed a sex offender to live right next to a school would mean there'd be hell to pay for the local cops too. Telling me to skip ahead to the attached images of the crime scene, there was a piece of notebook paper stuffed into the mouth of the dead kid we had sat with day after day at our lunch table. The picture afterwards was the message scratched into the paper. IAL DELIVERS. The unsolicited messages of an old friend bringing back up not just a tragic event in our childhood, but the brutal photos of his crime scene were unappreciated to say the least. "Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you?" I typed. "What does that even mean, IAL DELIVERS?" He only replied with 2 words. "I'm sorry." Now I understand why he said sorry. It wasn't that he was apologizing for bothering me after so long with macabre documentation of the death of a child. After seeing all this myself, I can't seem to stop thinking about that sheet of paper found with Marcus either. Whatever it was that happened that night, it woke something up. As all these thoughts have been swirling around in my head, I'm not even sure McKenna's asthma killed her either. even if we had made up some bullshit name for what happened, every time the kids looked in that mirror and did that made-up ritual we created to scare each other, they thought about it. They kept it alive. Ever since I saw the real name Marcus mentioned all those years ago, I haven't been able to sleep well. I've been too afraid to get up after waking up in the middle of the night. So, to whoever found this text file, I'm sorry. Because you've read his real name too.